Special guests that love the challenge of status quo, coaching all levels, players, administrators, you name it. We got them all. I'm your host, Pete Caliendo. Thanks for joining us. I just asked before we start, because we're going to start right away, get into it. Just ask two things. One, forward the show to all your coaches, parents, players. Just do us that favor, because that would just help us out. And don't forget, subscribe on YouTube. If you love video, YouTube, Peter Caliendo. If you're an audio guy, go to Spotify, go to Baseball Outside the Box and subscribe there. You get all the updates. So it's up to you how you want to handle that, but we appreciate it, man. All right, another show, another day, and we love it because we're always learning something. Today, former Major League player, pitcher, and this is a great story, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. Jeff Fassero, I'm going to say a paisan, another Italian on the show, and for him, Lily Coffee, a little espresso before we start. No, they're not a sponsor, but you never know, they might be one day, because Lily Coffee is Lily's one of the best Italian, so love it. All right, let's welcome our guest. Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Pete.
How's Arizona treating you?
Oh, beautiful right now. Great time of the year. It's starting to cool down.
Did you grow up there?
No, I grew up in Springfield, Illinois.
Oh yeah, I'm a Chicago kid. Well, suburb kid, but so you grew up in Springfield. You went to school where?
Griffin High School.
After high school, what happened after high school? How did you college? Signed out of high school?
Junior college in my hometown, 2 years.
Which junior
college? Lincoln Land Community College.
Oh yeah, Lincoln Way, sure. Seen them many times.
And then 2 years there, got scholarship to Ole Miss, played at Ole Miss for 1 year, then got drafted.
Nice.
Left college.
Who's your coach at Ole Miss? Who was your coach at Ole Miss?
Jake Gibbs.
Okay. And then 1 year, and then you got drafted.
Yep.
When you got brothers, sisters?
Got one brother, one sister, one of each.
Yeah, brother baseball player at all, or?
No. No. He more like golf, but he really didn't follow that up either.
Yeah. Hey, we're all, obviously when we were young, we're all, I started, I think, at late 9 years old playing baseball. My parents were from Italy, didn't know much about the sport and all that. And I just saw it. I loved it. I started playing it. As kids, we all loved baseball when we were younger. Those were the days of, because we're similar in age. Those are the days of, the baseball cards used to put them in the spike of the bike or the wheels of the bikes, and collect them and then have fun with them. And we'd go out and plan our own and all that. And obviously, we all had a dream to go to the big leagues. What was your aspirations? When did you start?
Start playing baseball? We started out with Sandlot. I was probably about 5 years old. We had a good group of kids in our neighborhood. There was about somewhere around 12, 13 boys that we would from anywhere from age 5 to 12. And we lived on the outskirts of town, so we just had big fields. We'd go out and with lawnmowers, cut a baseball field out and start playing Sandlot. Back in my day and age, you played all the sports, but baseball was by far my favorite one for some reason. I don't know. Grew up Cardinal fan, watching them play in the late 60s, early 70s, and followed them forever. And, so my life was throwing rocks, throwing baseballs, throwing whatever I could throw. So
cool.
That's pretty much how it went.
And it's neat. I mean, I know you drafted by the Cardinals, then made it to the big leagues. We're going to talk about that part because that's the interesting part. I want to learn more about that with Montreal. But that Sandlot ball, I got to believe we need to go back to that a lit's bit with some, because baseball's so organized nowadays. Kids need to go out and just kind of play on their own. When you go out and play Sandlot, I want to just hit this a little bit because I think it's so important. I mean, give us the idea, things you've learned from playing Sandlot. What made you? How did it make you a better player? I know it made me a better player.
I mean, everybody did everything. I mean, left-handed, everybody. I got stuck in the outfield most of the time at first base.
Right.
But we also learned. Most people probably won't know what it is Indian ball. They say there's like 6 of us out there just to play that day. You blocked out one side of the field, and you could only hit one side of the field. So it taught you how to hit the ball everywhere. Not just try to pull the ball and hit home. It taught you how to hit the ball. We just, and there's days you like a game called Pitcher's Hand. So
Mm-hmm.
we had a couple guys playing too, where ball was hit, they threw it to the pitcher before the guy got to first base, he was out. We just had different games that we played back in those days, and it wasn't our organized baseball when I was growing up. I started at 7 years old playing regular baseball. It wasn't like t-ball, all that stuff, and we played 12 games a summer. That was it. So most of
Yeah.
the baseball I played was in our neighborhood playing sandlot.
Yeah, very similar. And you know what? We had that too. 12, 15 games wasn't a whole lot. It was exciting. You get the uniform, you go out and play, and the parents are all around the fences, and they had some flags, and sometimes there were some people cheering. But you know what? We went back and played sandlot all the time because we just loved the game that much. And I got to believe that it built your instincts a little bit too, right? Because we had to be creative, like you said,
Yeah.
half the field. Did you lob the, like sometimes we would lob the ball, so we'd hit it all the time, or sometimes we'd throw it overhand as a pitcher, but there was always action.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't just lob the ball. We threw. I mean, it wasn't like we were throwing as hard as we could, but and we also sometimes we use a rubber ball, sometimes we'd use a tennis ball, sometimes a baseball.
Mm-hmm.
We mix up the ball, so it's different things were going on with that. And then, as we got older, we started playing sandlot ball against other neighborhoods. There were other groups of kids. We just find the field and go play, our neighborhood against another neighborhood. It was completely different. I guess it was easier to do. We had a lot of room around where I grew up. I figure sandlot for inner city is going to be kind of a hard thing to do, but we were on the outskirts, so we had plenty of room.
That's one thing we did not do. We didn't play other areas. We always played it amongst ourselves. But, again, exciting, fun, and we just learned a lot doing it that way. I still remember, we picked our own lineups. We knew who was going to bat first, second, third, fifth, sixth. Sometimes we mixed it up. Or sometimes if we argued, what did we do? We did the bat, right? The hands,
Yep.
The bat, who was home team, who was visiting team. There was always – talk about being creative as kids. And nobody taught us that. We kind of did it on our own.
Exactly. You toss the bat to one person, wherever his hands start, then the other person just goes, and they just go back and forth to the top. It was, no coin flips or anything like that. We just used the bat for that too. But it was great. We had, like I said, playing with your friends, just learning the game by instincts, not being told everything that has to be done, which I think was a big key to success I had.
Hey, a little shout out to good friends of mine, Bobby Roan, outstanding coach, Mark Fuller, also from Wisconsin, friend, outstanding coach. Thanks for jumping on, guys. If you got any questions, put them in the comments section. I'm still learning the Facebook comments section here, but I think I could read them. Hey, how about when you were younger, coaches that influenced you? Did you have little league coaches or a high school coach, somebody that was a great influence?
Back when I first started, it was dads through Corey League, Junior League. But once I got, you get into high school, you start getting better coaches. But I would say when I really became a pitcher was junior college, and a guy by the name of Clyde Oliver. He studied baseball. He was a big Nolan Ryan fan, big Tom Seaver fan. So he read all their books, and about their mechanics. And he taught our pitching staff basically the stuff that they were preaching when they were pitching. So he was probably my first big influence on that. And then when I got drafted, my first pitching coach, Mark Riggins, was young. He just had got done playing. He was in the Cardinal organization, and they made him a coach. And he was, for his age at the time, was really pretty good about teaching us, the ropes of playing professional ball right away. Other than that, I had, there were quite a few coaches. All through the minor leagues, and even, once I got to the big leagues, I would say probably Kerrigan had a lot to do with my success in Montreal, as far as you know, the mental part of the game. And he was pretty good mechanically too, which helps at times when you get out of sync.
Mm-hmm. And how about, if you had to go back now and tell yourself something new that you needed to change back then, something you wish you had then, a different pitch or something that you maybe training wise that you would do differently?
I would probably say be more aggressive more often. That's what I would say. I mean, there were times I'd have lapses in games where I wasn't aggressive and, and I would lose a little focus. That would be the one thing I would want to change.
And the other part, I remember I went to Mickey on baseball school, and one of my coaches, actually one of the directors, was Jerry Nyman. Nyman came left-handed pitcher with the White Sox, came up, I believe, in '69 maybe I've got the year wrong, but when Tommy John went down with the White Sox, he came up. So one of the things he told me is one of the things he never developed that he wished he really would have developed back then would have been his changeup. He never threw a changeup before. Everybody's different, obviously, but that was just one area that he talked about that he wished he would have had.
Yeah. With the Cardinals, we were working on a changeup. I never came up with a really good changeup. I had good sinking fastball and a good slider. I guess it would be called what they call it, a sweeper nowadays.
Yeah, sweeper. Who knows? They got all kinds of names for him.
But going back to Riggins, I was in AA. He was going down to Puerto Rico to be a pitching coach. I went down there with him, and then we worked on a changeup, and then we ended up working on like a split changeup, which was working, but we ultimately turned it into a straight forkball. And once I got command of that, that's kind of when the career did take off. I mean,
Nice.
it was a definite out pitch for me.
And so that was the pitch you went to when you got in trouble, when you really needed.
It was an out pitch. It was like if I needed, I wouldn't consider myself a strikeout pitcher, but if I needed a strikeout, I would set it up to get to that pitch, and I finally got enough control of it. I could throw it as first pitch, and so it started messing with hitters more.
Hey, something that might help, whether it's coaches, players, one of the hardest things, and this, preaching to the choir about this, and I think we need to train more towards this. One of the things that's tough in baseball is obviously there's a lot of failure. You're going to fail no matter what. I mean, whether you're a hitter, pitcher, like anything else. I feel so bad for the Phillies pitcher who threw that ball away, but, pressure, and there's so much at the major league level, especially. But when you got in trouble and you started to fail, was there something mentally you did, or how did you kind of bring yourself back and gather yourself, get ready? Because that's the spotlight. You're in the big leagues. It's not little league, but even though in little league, there's pressure there too, right? It's like being in the big leagues. You got all those parents. Well, how did you deal with it?
I just, I mean, we didn't have pitch clock back then, but at the point, there's a time you just step off the mound and learn to slow the game down. Think about what you need to do to get out of situations. This is kind of like when I'm coaching, would go out to talk to a pitcher, they would feel bad, so they give up a hit. You could just see in their body language that they're worried, maybe because it's a starter and he's in the fifth inning. He's not going to be able to get out of the inning, whatever. My job was go out there and to get him to slow down, give him a plan, and I learned that as I kept playing in the big leagues. If I gave up a single, okay, I go, okay, the single. No, let's use a double. Double's better. Okay, back in my day, the hitter would come up, try to get the guy out, right? Or get the guy over. My job was, okay, he's going to get him over. I'm going to throw you a sinker. It's a right hand. I'm going to throw you a sinker down away, hit the ground ball to the second baseman. That's fine. Guy goes to third base. I don't have to pitch to the next hitter. I can force him to get himself out. If I walk him, so what, I got guys on first and third, and then I go back to, okay, what's my best ground ball pitch to get this guy to hit into a double play? They don't think like that nowadays. Also, they're all even when I was coaching, because I was coaching when all this came in. Last year of coaching here was 19. They're processing the numbers instead of the idea of what they've got to do to get out of an inning.
Yeah, that's interesting. And one of the things I saw, I'm sure you're watching some of the games. It's interesting now. The Dodgers, they went with 3 of their pitchers. They went deep, because they were doing a pretty good job. I think they went against some of the statistics, which is good to see, right? I mean, you got to use your instincts as a coach too, and look at stats, but use instincts at the same time.
Yeah, it's just the same thing. I mean, watching the Blue Jays, I guarantee you that where they've sacrificed 3 or 4 times so far in the series, I bet they didn't have that many sacrifices all year long.
Right.
The game's played like it should be played year round in the playoffs. Everybody, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And I'll tell you what, you want to make the game exciting. That's exciting because I can't wait for playoff time. Right? Yeah. There's a reason, because it's more exciting to watch. If they would do that during the season, you would really, I think you'd raise the level of attendance. I know the commissioner of baseball said the average person watching baseball nowadays is 50 years old. Well, they're concerned about that, right? So you better make the game more exciting. Speaking about that, they've made the game a little bit more exciting because it's almost like Little League. You get the first base, you steal second. Like your chances are 80% of the time you're going to be safe. Yeah. There is some action more than there was before.
Yeah. But they kind of took running away, I would say, from 04 till what's been going on now. But I would say if you did the stuff that they do now, Lou Brock, Ricky Henderson, they might have sold
200
because they would just force you to throw over or step off, and then they could just take off when they wanted, and you couldn't do anything about it. So I mean, they've gone about making it exciting by actually, in my opinion, is punishing the pitcher.
I know what I agree with you. There's a couple, I did a lot internationally with the WBSC, and we made some different rules prior to MLB. MLB actually followed some of our rules. But one rule, what you just said, I'm not a big fan of throwing over twice and all of a sudden, the next time, it's a balk. Because they're, like you said, they can just steal at will. The other one I question, it's just me, I want to get your opinion on it. I'm not a fan of you have to pitch the 3 batters, especially in the playoffs, because I saw it a couple of times where they could have brought in somebody else and they didn't, and that guy got clocked, and that made an effect in the playoff situation. So I'm not a big 3-pitcher guy, but get your opinion.
I ain't take it or leave it. I just look back when I got called up to the big leagues, there was 10 men on the staff. 5 of them were starters and 5 of them were in the bullpen.
Yeah.
And, there was no limits on the bullpen. Basically, I would say the only limit they had on the bullpen is if you threw 3 days or threw 3 innings in a row, then you would have a day off. But there was no limits on us. And, our job was to get the hitters out. So if we start an inning, we wanted to finish an inning. Or, our job was to finish an inning. But if you're not doing well, they would come take you out. But we didn't have the backup. I mean, when you got 7 guys in the bullpen, you can go, let this guy get one out, do the matchup and do that. I don't have a problem with the matchups and doing that stuff and take them out. So I guess I would lean more towards they don't need to throw 3 batters.
Yeah, they're talking about, we want to speed up the game. You want to speed up the game. I'm for instant replay because I love that, make sure the call's right. But, if you have to take more than a minute to make a decision on instant replay, then leave it the way it is, because sometimes they're out there 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I'm like, wow, if you want to speed up the game, you're not speeding it up doing it that way. So, and again, please don't get me wrong, folks. I'm not the expert. I don't know the behind scenes, all the things that go on. I'll give you an example. I spent about a lot of time, over 20 years in Japan, always going there, playing, coaching, doing all kinds of. I love Japanese baseball. People hear me on the podcast all the time talk about Japanese baseball. They get tired of listening to me about Japanese baseball. But I'll give you an example. In the World Baseball Classic, the Japanese had 10 starters, 1 closer. Their mentality is different because they're trained that way. No matter who you are, you pitch to the weakness of the hitter. They got great location. You have a plan. whenever you come in and get the job done. That's just the way it is in Japan, right? Because they're trained that way. I look at Sasaki, the closer. They didn't think Sasaki was a closer yet for the Dodgers. Now, all of a sudden, he's the closer. I'm almost like, geez, that guy throws 100 and something. He's got a great splitter. Yes, he's young. They gave him a chance. You should have seen what he can do. Now they're giving him more of a chance. And the Japanese can jump in right away and do things like that, where sometimes American pitchers are more tailored for certain situations. And if you put them outside that comfort zone, right, that they may not be able to handle it as well. Not all of them. I mean, obviously, some guys can do it differently. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, we're still in that area.
I agree. I mean, they've made everybody regimented in the United States.
Right.
This is what you're going to do. This is all you can do instead of let's expand and make you do more. I'm not against the analytics, but the analytics aren't everything that it incorporates in baseball.
Sure.
I mean, I can read numbers. I can understand the numbers. I did a class to understand these numbers. And you can apply them differently to each individual. I mean, if a guy doesn't have a spin rate, in my opinion, and I even did it with some guys when I was coaching, this is a two-seam guy that can throw a nasty sinker and get ground balls. But they've been trained so much right now, I believe, that we don't want contact. So it's hard four-seamers up out of the zone where, if you look, John Smoltz threw the ball hard when I was playing. If he was on a radar gun right now, he probably would have been 100 miles an hour consistently. Or whatever on TrackMan. He probably would have been hard. He would have probably been throwing that hard. But he could throw that hard and still locate and command the ball. These guys now, even watching the games right now, you got the four best teams playing pretty much. The Dodgers probably have the best starting staff and probably were hurt all year long. That's why they didn't win as many games as they should have. But you look at them, the Dodgers can control and command their starters. You saw it with the first three games of this series. And the Mariners, the first two games were pretty good about it. But the last two games, their starters haven't commanded the ball. They've a lot of belt high, middle of the plate fastballs that have been getting hit and hit hard. So, I mean, it's not just a numbers game for these guys. Some of these guys need to learn how to get the control and command to get themselves out of trouble.
Yeah,
one pitch.
You know what? I'm with you, and I'll tell you why. Because I've seen it so much, and I'm going to go back. Here we go again. I'm going to go back to the Japanese. These guys. Some of them, the guys who are in the big leagues now, they're taller. Sasaki's a little taller. Yeah, obviously. The other, I forget Otani's taller. But a lot of Japanese pitchers are not that tall. But yet they work on their mechanics. They're fundamentally, they use their body to their max. But one of the things they do great is control, location. They don't miss by a lot. Even their young kids, 12 years old, 14, they're always in that little, if you put your glove here, they're always in that area. They don't miss much. So when you have pitchers, you were coaching, you said in 2019, and now I know you're heading out. We're going to talk about that too. You're heading somewhere to coach internationally. When you've got young pitchers and it's your first time with the club, what's the first thing you do as a coach? What do you want to know about the pitchers?
I just want to know if you can control the ball, if you can throw the ball in a good area whenever you have to throw it. We can work on velocity, but let's work on control and command first and then add the velocity, because if we're working on control and command, we're working on your mechanics to get you in a good position to throw the baseball.
What'd you do? Like if you all of a sudden had trouble with your control, or one of your pitchers has trouble with your control, what's some advice? How do you get back into it? What do you use to get back into that control mode?
Well, everybody's going to get out of sync. You let hitters get out of sync, they go in slumps because something's not right in their swing. And the good ones figure it out fast, and the ones that it lingers on a little longer don't figure it out so quick, or they start pressing themselves. The best thing I had was, as far as pitching coaches go, was Kerrigan with mechanics. he could see right away if I threw a couple pitches that weren't in the zone, and he could see what I was doing right away. It was always the same thing. My back leg, I was dropping a little too low on it. He'd come out right away and go, stay taller, get down the slope, and it was a quick fix. And I got to a point when I started seeing certain pitches go certain places that I knew that's what I was doing. So, it all comes with time, and it comes with repetition. No, I don't know. I probably threw 60,000 baseballs. I don't know. Just a rough estimate.
Hey, something interesting about Jeff, about coaches, every time I watch a major league game, I know they can't do it, but I wish they'd mic the pitching coach when he goes out to the mound, the kind of
Yeah.
because every situation's different. Obviously, you got runners on, you don't, you got one out, you gave up a run. Whatever the situation is, they're throwing high, they're missing on the second pitch. What are some of the discussions? Give us a couple ideas on discussions. Maybe some pitching coaches that came out to the mound when you were playing, and also maybe one where when you were coaching, you had to go out and talk to a player, because young coaches, if you're saying the wrong thing, that could affect the player's ability to get back into the rhythm.
Well, one of the biggest things, like I said earlier, is give the pitcher a plan when you go out there. Give him a plan of what the hitter that's coming up, the situations, and give him a plan to try to get out. And that gets his mind away from thinking about all the bad stuff that's happened. You got to eliminate that. They think right away, like, base hit, and it's like panic mode for them. When if you can go out there and talk to them and go, let's relax. Let's see what we can do. Just get us a double play ball right here, and you're basically out of the inning. Then you've got to make one more good pitch or one more hitter. And the other thing is telling them to get ahead with a good quality pitch. So, I mean, even like I had so much confidence in my sinker that I could throw it pretty much where I wanted to. I guess it'd be on my arm side, left side, the plate all the time. So once I learned that, it was pretty easy for me to think about, okay, I just need a double play ball, and I can throw this to a right-hander down and away. It might be an inch or two off the plate, swings at it, I get what I want. If he doesn't, I'll just bring it in a little bit to get him to swing at it. So I go out and just calm him, and the bad time to go out is when the manager says, go out there. We got to get somebody out, buy some time. That's not when you want to go out and talk to the pitcher. But, sometimes you just go out there. I would go out there and just talk to him about something completely out of baseball. Yes. And then right before I'd leave, I'd go, okay, let's just get a ground ball. Just so their mind goes somewhere else. You got to get their mind out of the panic mode or the pressure situation they think that they're really in.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can imagine too. Imagine going out and saying, hey, hang in there. I got to talk to you a little bit because we're getting the guy warmed up so we can make a pitching change. That wouldn't be very positive, I don't think, for the pitcher. I don't think you'd want to pitch to that hitter anymore. Hey, here's the other part, Jeff. Now, this is the part. Sometimes I start with this, but I wanted to find out some of these other details. Your career is amazing because you didn't make it to the big leagues till you were 28, right?
Yeah.
Now, so you spent that means you spent roughly around 10 years in the minors.
6
years in the minors.
6 years.
Give us that frame of mind, because sooner or later, I have a friend of mine who spent 11, 12 years, made it to AAA, and that was it. Sooner or later, your mind's got to play games saying, what am I doing? Should I just give up? How do you persevere through all that? Because it's easy to give up when you don't see it in daylight.
Yeah, the first 4 years, you're just going through, having fun with your guys, playing, trying to get better and doing stuff like that. But then my 5th year when I met my wife, it changed a lot of stuff. So I started thinking, like, if I don't have a good year this year, then maybe I'm going to quit. But like when I met her, we started dating, got engaged. I had a really good year that year. it was really the first time that I went and stayed in a bullpen for a whole year. I was bounced back and forth a lot the first 4 years of my career, 5 years of my career, I guess it was. And so I just finally got a full year in a bullpen and had a really good year. And then after that, I said, okay, we can do this for one more year. And that's when I signed with the Expos, a minor league contract with an invite to a pre-camp, and to go over and do some backup for the Expos big league team and double in games. I went down didn't make the AAA team, and I got off to a great start, and they were struggling in the big leagues. I got called up, and was only there for 10 days before I got sent down. Got to pitch pitched in only one game, and got sent down. But then there was some big changes in Montreal that year. They fired the manager, brought in somebody else. Then I went up. I had to wait the 10 days that they have. Went up the 10th day and never saw another day in the minor leagues. So it might have been just finding a good woman that put me on the straight and narrow.
I was going to say, the irony is hey guys, if you're struggling, get married, because no doubt your wife will put you in the right direction. I can attest to that. I've gone astray many times, and my wife's put me in that path and really supported you, right? I mean, it was really that positive. Sometimes we need that positive input in our lives to give us that kick. Now, you also had to go from starter to reliever, right?
Then I went to the major leagues in the bullpen, was there for a year and a half, and then I got moved to starter.
And you stayed as a starter?
Until 2000 again. Then I went back to the bullpen. And then, I would go back and forth, the rest of my career. I could spot start, I'd pitch in the bullpen. It was just, at that point, I knew enough about my body and what it took for me to be ready to do whatever might have been needed on the team at that time.
Yeah, and that could have helped because you went as a reliever, then a starter, and you went back to reliever, so that your adjustment was probably a little easier. I would think it'd be hard if you're a starter for 5 years, 6 years, and then you got to go in the bullpen to make that adjustment nowadays. Is that a little tougher?
It probably would be. I guess it just depends on how well if you're a starter and you're only getting 4.5 innings, 4 innings, every time you go out because you're throwing a lot of pitches, it might be better for you to move the bullpen. I would say going to the bullpen full time was one of the best things that happened, because as a bullpen guy, you have to go in and throw strikes. You don't want to walk guys. You can't walk guys. Mm-hmm. You can't get in trouble. So that was one of the things that really helped hone my focus on actually throwing strikes and trusting that throwing strikes is not going to hurt you.
Help our folks out there, and also some of the coaches sometimes, because I go back to the playoffs. You see sometimes, and we're sitting at home. It's easy, right? We got relaxed, and there's no pressure on us. A lot of pressure on players, but certain situations come up. They bring a reliever, and then he walks the first guy, right? And then you're like, why'd you walk that guy? But it's not that simple. You can say why'd you walk him, but explain why somebody else sudden that comes out of the pen in a critical time, and he's got the first batter and he walks the first guy. Why would that happen?
It's one of two things. Either the pressure is really tense on him, so he does that, or the other one is he was not properly prepared throwing strikes in the bullpen, and that's the situation. If you're a left-hander, you're coming in to face a left-hander, and what your stuff is. You got to use your stuff. As a bullpen guy, you use your best stuff. You don't let's put it this way. When I was in Montreal, I was the only left-hander on the staff at one point. And we'd have our pitching meetings and everybody was together, and they'd be talking about a right-handed hitter, and basically all the meetings were set up for right-handers. Well, you got to throw this guy a slider down and away, a right-hander. I go, that's great. I don't really have that pitch. I do have a sinker down away, so I guess I can use that. but listening to
Yeah.
them, you know, so you listen to the meetings, but you can't take everything out of them, in my opinion, that is said, because that might not be your strength. And just because that's how you're supposed to get him out, your strength might be better than what they think his strength is, even if it's my strength against his strength. Let's say this guy is a good fastball hitter inside. Does that mean I can't throw the fastball inside? No, it just means I got to locate the fastball hard inside in a situation to get him off of something that I really want to get him out with. So
Yeah, and you may have a fastball that's got some movement on it too.
yeah. So
And that's a great point because again, you're back to location. Also, this is something for the younger levels, okay? Because one of the hardest things, and that's the reason we're seeing curveballs and other pitches when you're 12 years old, the guy's got 5 pitches, and they can't throw a strike. One of the reasons is because they don't feel comfortable throwing fastballs in the strike zone because they don't have great location. But even if you didn't have great location, an old coach friend of mine, my mentor always taught me this with the younger kids, in your practice, just have them throw fastballs. Okay. They may not have the best control, but they're going to throw more strikes than they will with those other pitches. So just say fastballs only, because we're trying to prove a point at the young levels. What's the point? If you throw the ball in the strike zone, even if you throw it right down the middle at the young levels, the percentages are still in your favor. So if the percentages are in your favor, throwing the ball right down the middle, imagine if you got a little bit of location, what it must be like. And once you have that confidence, then you're able to throw your fastball more. In the big leagues, that might be a little different because you already, guys are a lot better. They got better location. But your younger players, why not have them throw more fastballs? So that way they learn that they can get guys out with that.
yeah, I mean, when I retired, I helped with both my boys and on their travel team, and I would work with the pitchers, and basically I would take them and have them throw fastball changeups, to get them, just because basically it's the same pitch, just a different grip. There's no twisting, no doing anything, to teach them to do that. And then,
Love it.
we would work on mixing in the breaking ball eventually. But I mean, it was basically fastball changeup. And going back to, you said pitchers do have the advantage. What the greatest hitters are get one hit or 3 hits in 10 at bats, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's easier to get hitters out when you're ahead in the count than it is when you're behind in the count. The fastball down the middle of the plate when it's maybe 0-2 as opposed to 2-0 might be fouled off, and the other one probably be hit out of the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the importance of, in my opinion, of pitching ahead in the game, pitching ahead of a hitter. It makes that 3 out of 10 maybe go down 2 out of 10.
What'd you do? What'd you do to recuperate a little bit after you pitched? And I know, like as a starter, compared to what they're doing nowadays, maybe there's some things you learned that they're doing nowadays you wish you would have done back then.
I never iced at all, unless there's actually inflammation.
Sure.
As a starter, after the game, I did some light shoulder exercises, and then would get my arm milked out. Just basically all the bad blood that's been there milked out, and and my recovery. The next day I could go out and throw without a problem, So I did that after all my starts in the pen. I'd lift light weights during the week. It's easier to do it as a starter because you can have a regiment. I'd lift light after my day on pitching, and then after my day on my bullpen sides. But I play stuff they won't let guys do nowadays. Is I played long toss the day after I started and the day after I threw my side.
Interesting.
I threw. I grew up throwing. I threw all the time. So it wasn't like, I won't say I threw all the time, because once baseball season was over, we went into playing football. Same group playing football in the fields and stuff. But once baseball season started, say for us, April, in the Midwest played baseball pretty much every day from April till the end of August. So we're throwing all the time. And I think, but we did have our breaks. I think that's where these kids get into trouble now. They're throwing year round. There's no breaks, you
Right.
know. And you need the breaks. Even I tell, like when I was coaching, I tell these guys, they go home. We go, well, I got to go home, take 2 weeks off, start throwing again. I go, no, you don't. How long does it take you to get ready?
2 weeks. Wow.
Yeah. Once I got going and understood everything, I didn't throw. I started playing catch and throwing a baseball in January after a season. We say we're done October 1st. I did not pick up a baseball until January and start throwing. And I did not get on a mound until I went to spring training. I got my arm in shape. That's all it was getting in shape. And then, because you still have 6 more weeks to get it pitching ready in big league camp.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different in the minor leagues because you got a shorter period of time. So you have to be a little further along like that. But I mean, my concern was working more on my mechanics and to make sure everything was in line going in. Because once you're doing that, you go there, you throw 25 pitches the first day. You have a day off, you throw 25 more pitches in spring training. So, I mean, you're just building up, and your arm's already in shape. So,
Yeah. When you had to prepare for a start, what was your preparation like?
Stretch, a lot of getting stretched, getting my arm stretched out by a trainer. Going out, I'd go out about 25 minutes before I was going to start. Stretch out the rest of my body, do some light jogging, and then start throwing. I'd probably stretch it out before I got on the mound to about, let's say, 120 feet. And then get on the mound. I had the same routine my whole career, throwing pitches. Was taught that Dennis Martinez was on the Expos when I was there, and when I got moved from the bullpen to starting, he was the one to talk to me about finding a routine, because like the first couple times I started, as being in a bullpen guy, I was take me 15 pitches and I was ready to go in a game. He goes, you need to settle that one down because you need to throw more pitches because you need to, actually throw enough pitches where you feel like you're controlling commands where it should be. So
Sure.
Eventually I came up with a good routine, and it was about 35 pitches.
You brought up 2 awesome points. One, and this was earlier, you brought up multi-sport athletes. I'm glad you brought that up. You were multi-sport athletes. It's about 99% of major league players were multi-sport athletes. Just for the folks out there listening, those are statistics, and that gives you an idea. When you're younger, that you're developing your athletic skills. Obviously, when you're playing different sports and you're not putting a lot of pressure on one specific muscle group, that's an issue, right? The other part you brought up and was about the throwing. Since you were young, throwing rocks, throwing. I mean. A lot of it may not have been pitching, but it's just throwing, just playing catch, like you said, playing long toss, whatever. Playing, a game with kids at the field on your own. Ever any major injuries or any surgeries?
I had bone chips taken out of my elbows. The only thing I had that was a major surgery during my playing time. And the only reason I had to do it was because one of the chips got into the groove in my elbow and wouldn't come out. So it would, after I pitched, there would be like fluid in my elbow. So I had it done at the end of the year. I mean, I pitched through the season with it whenever it did. We put on one of those compression sleeves, squeezed all of it out, and was fine to start. Then after that, there was no other major. I was only on the DL 2 times in big leagues. One was ribcage muscle pull, and then I woke up one morning with a stiff neck and couldn't move, so they just put me on the DL for whatever, the 10 days, 15 days. So
and I brought that up for a reason, obviously, because I had a pretty good idea of what the answer was going to be. Bone spurs, that's going to happen. That can happen, with a lot of different sports. but that proves a point. Look at all the years you played, all the years you pitched, and the things that you did, yet you didn't have any major injuries. Now, I get it. There's guys throwing, most relievers nowadays are throwing 100 miles an hour, maybe a little bit fast. Like you said, Smoltz could probably do that. But in those days, you didn't have, all these guys throwing 100 miles an hour. But that's even more of a concern because you got young kids throwing harder now, and you got them on the mound. Like you said, they're pitching more, and they don't have any time off. And then they're wondering why there's injuries. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that.
No, I mean, your body needs rest no matter what it is. I mean,
yeah.
And that's like when I talk to younger people, I get calls and stuff. Can you go work with like this 8-year-old? And I go, it's not going to serve any purpose. He just needs to go out and throw a baseball. I don't need to like make money off of you just to tell the kid what to do. And I said, he should also be playing other sports right now. There's no reason for him not to be playing other sports, so that he becomes a better athlete. I mean, even when I was coaching, I was seeing some of these guys, pitching's all they can do. They can't, like, if I go, oh, let's have a day, let's go out and play golf. And it's like they've never done any other sport in their life. It's, it's tough. You want to,
I could attest to this because 3 things I did when I was younger, I look back and say, that I wish I could have changed those if I'd have known. 1, multi-sport athlete, because I was not. Now, I played a little soccer in Italy because I happened to live there when I was 3 to 7. But when I came back to the States, I played baseball only, and that was crazy. And then, now on top of it, I wasn't a great athlete, so I needed that even more, right, to become a better athlete. And the other thing is, and you talked about this, that's why I bring it up all the time, I couldn't deal with failure. I mean, I should have been playing another sport because if you can't, if you're not athletic and you're not, you can't deal with failure, you're going to struggle playing the game of baseball because there's a lot of failure in baseball. So that's why I bring those things up.
Yeah.
Those things helped you being a multi-sport athlete, going out and playing on your own, doing all these things. And then the other thing is I was going to mention, I wanted to ask you about this. I listened to Jim Cotta on MLB Network. He said, he was great. He said he never, because Tom House was on the show with him, and Tom was talking about when you're throwing off a mound, there's more pressure because you're going downhill. Okay, science is science. If that's true, great. Sounds good.
Yeah.
But Jim Cotta said when he was younger, they didn't have mounds. They never pitched off a mound most of the time. He's talking about before he got the big leagues, obviously, pro ball. But did you pitch off of mounds when you were a kid?
No, it was all flat ground still. I don't think let's see. I probably didn't get on a mound until I got maybe 12, 13. But like all our like 7, 8, 9, 10, that was all flat ground. There was no mounds at all.
Yeah, now it's all mounds.
Yeah. I mean, I'm out in Arizona, so they got all these baseball fields. They all have mounds. And if they don't have a mound, so the younger kids, they play at softball fields. They bring out those portable mounds and put them out there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right. If you were, especially pitching wise, and you could mention about the game too, if you were a director of a Little League program, you had maybe, 100 teams or something, and you were in charge of the program. I don't know, some things that you would stress in the league, something you would change and how the game is being taught nowadays or directed by somebody, something you would change to kind of help the situation to keep kids in the game longer because it'd be a lot more fun doing it that way. Is there something you change the game?
Definitely got to keep it fun for them. That's the one thing, and I don't really watch a lot of the youth stuff, but I do I do work with some kids and listen to some of them talk about everybody wants, it's a need to win. Everything's a need to win. And when you're 12 years old, 16 years old, what does just winning the baseball game really going to mean to you? Develop the kids to learn how to win and how to carry on in life. Because if you look at the pyramid that they make out, and you start with youth baseball and you keep going up each level, the number is very unlikely that you're going to play professional baseball anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
while you're teaching them to play baseball, I think you need to teach them importance of life also too. I mean, it's like you talk about failure. If people need to go back and watch Derek Jeter's speech that he gave at that college, and
Mm-hmm.
talks about his first year in baseball, how he failed. He talks about baseball being a failure sport and everything and how to overcome it. That's something that a lot of coaches need to go back and listen to. I mean, you listen to somebody that's a Hall of Famer talk about all his struggles in baseball, how he overcomes them. And when you're teaching young kids, I think you got to teach them that too. Life's not easy. You're going to fail. You're going to fail in baseball a lot. Pitchers and hitters are going to both fail. I mean, it's not you look at like we talked earlier, batting average, what it takes to be a great player, 3 hits out of 10. So you're failing 7 out of 10 times, really, if you look at it that way. And then as a pitcher, I mean, the numbers have changed so much, but when I was playing, pretty much if your ERA was in the threes, you were having success. But it means you're giving up 3 runs a game. So you're still failing at a point. You're never having complete success.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I think the younger they are, the earlier we need to get to them in that perspective and dealing with it and understanding how to deal with it and expect it. The earlier we can reach these young kids, that's why it's important. The coaches, I was talking about the volunteer coaches, their parents, but their position is so important because they're influencing some really young minds. And if they're not working with these young kids and understanding how to deal with it and that it's going to happen, and also being as positive as possible too, because the more positive you are, you give them that energy to really believe in themselves. I think that's critical, and that'll keep kids in the game a lot longer. I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy game. No sport's an easy game. If you look at it, there's not, and you're going to have those kids at the lower level that are more advanced than other kids that have that great success. But I mean, each level you go to high school, you're going to have, say you have 4 kids that are great on your high school team. 4 of those kids go to a college. Now you're bringing in all the other people throughout the whole country. And so you're still weeding people out. Say those 4 kids that go from high school to college, 2 of them advance, and then they get drafted. Now you're in a whole different class. The odds of it. I mean, the very first thing they said to us when I went to rookie ball was they had all of us together. There's 25 guys on the roster. The first thing they said is, one of you will make it to the big leagues off this team. That's it. I mean, that was the very first thing they said in the Cardinal organization. Chuck Hiller was my first manager, and his speech was, go out there and play as hard as you can, do what you can do, but only one of you, the odds say only one of you are going to make it to the big leagues.
Interesting. You know what? And 2 things going to happen. Some guys, maybe like me, we're taking a hike. We're going to find something else to do. Or you're going to take that as a challenge, right? You're going to say, oh, really? Let's see if it's only going to be one of us. It's always it's a motivator, right? I mean, I think it's a motivator. Big difference, and I think that's one of the reasons. I know I'm jumping off subject here. One of the reasons that Major League Baseball eliminated a lot of minor league teams is they were spending money and they didn't want to spend that money. So they let the independent teams run some of the minor league clubs because they knew the majority of those guys aren't going to make it. And then they can just keep 2 or 3 minor league teams instead of 6, which made some sense. At first, it became a little tough. How did you, to end this, because I've kept you on a long time, but I really appreciate it, Jeff. Why do you like coaching? What pitchers? I coach pitchers, but you're coaching players too.
Yeah, I just like passing on the knowledge that I learned from coaches that I had, and I think that's basically what I like to do. Is I just want to pass on the knowledge and help the kids that actually serious about the game. I mean, sometimes like doing youth stuff, sometimes I don't know if it's the kid that really wants to be there or if it's the parent that wants the kid to be there. So that's what's hard. That's like I was doing high school ball when I retired at one of the high schools out here. And I did it for like 2 years. And I told my wife, I go, I can't do this anymore. And it wasn't because of the kids, it was because of the parents.
Parents,
I said, I
yes.
can't be bombarded with questions. And if I tell them the truth, it's not what they want to hear. So if I'm going to coach some more, I'm going to see about if I can get into pro ball. You know,
That's the
that
reason.
way I don't have to deal with the parents.
Yeah, and that's the reason I went into independent ball. Independent ball was so much easier dealing with professionals, and also, hey, it's your career. We're here to help you.
Yeah.
In the indie ball was all about winning. Because we needed to win, but we also wanted to get them to the next level or get them back into pro ball because some already came from pro ball. And those were our goals. And the only ones that can screw that up is themselves, right? I mean, hey, you can go out and party and do whatever. That's up to you. But, this is your career. Maybe you got to focus a little bit more on what you need to do, because if you don't succeed in independent ball as an individual too, you're going to get replaced. And you didn't have to worry about parents and dealing with parents all the time. So I agree with you. The other part, your benefit as a pitcher, major league pitcher, but also, college and all the youth pitching you did, not only can you help pitchers, but you can help hitters. You can help a lot of other positions, because of the experience you had. And I believe pitchers and catchers make great managers too, I think, because, what's the most important thing in Major League Baseball as a manager? Controlling your pitchers, right? No, some guys really can burn them out mostly, and the guys that know how to handle it really well. So you got a great upper hand in helping different players.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. Like, catchers are in the game every pitch that they're playing. Pitchers don't, because we don't get to stay in the whole game very often. But I mean, a starter who has enough sense to understand what's going on in the game could make a good manager. But I definitely think catchers probably do make the best managers if they want to do it. And I would say, as far as outside that, my next choice would be a shortstop, because they're pretty much in the game the whole time too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jeff, this has been awesome. Last thing, heading somewhere internationally sounds exciting. You're going to be coaching, I'm assuming pitching coach for a top club internationally. Tell us about it. Love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm leaving. Got a call, I guess it's been about 3 weeks ago, from a guy I coached with in Boise when I was in A-ball for the Cubs. And then he called me and asked me, said he was looking for a pitching coach in Perth, Australia.
Nice.
And, then I said, I got to see about this. I needed to talk to my wife, see what she thought about it, and thought it'd be a great experience, and I said, yes. Are you sure about this? Because I'll be gone for 3 months.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how long. 3 months.
3
Wow.
months. 3 months. And, Australia's a place I've always wanted to go.
Yeah.
She's been there. I haven't been there. And thought, and then talked to my kids, and my daughter and younger son were all, yeah, Dad, you got to go. It's great. You got to go. You got to go. So we decided I would go. So I'm going to go down there and coach the Perth team, the pitching coach for the Perth team. And it's kind of an interesting league. I thought I'm going to go down there. We're going to start the season. We're going to play basically 7 days a week and have a day off.
Yeah,
it's not how it works there. They play Thursday, Friday, and a doubleheader Saturday, and then they're off the other days. So it's going to be interesting. You work out with the pitchers. I think he said Sunday we're pretty much off because that's travel day for everybody. But like Monday and Tuesday, and we get, from what I hear, we bring them in 2 different sessions, because some of the guys that are on the team are actually still working, and because they don't make enough money with baseball, so they have to work to live there. Yeah. But then the foreigners will work out like in the mornings and stuff like that. And then when the Australians get off work, we'll go back in and work them out. And so it should be interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? It'll be a great experience. I'm familiar with it, and also it's a very similar to Europe because they can only play on weekends and get their games in there. Tough to adjust for the hitters sometimes
Yeah,
because you're sitting out for a while. But you know what? It's going to be, like you said, it's going to be an awesome experience. And what's great about international baseball too, you know this. I mean, even though you've been around a long time in the game, there's always something to learn from other people too, and it's going to be a lot
yeah.
of fun. It's a great league, and I know it's got some AA, AAA guys, maybe even some former big league guys are playing in the league.
They have some of those. I guess one of the pitchers I have is on the borderline of making their national team for the World Baseball Classic.
Oh
So
yeah,
they asked me to go really work with him, see if we can get him on. And because he's like 37 years old, it'd be like his last hurrah for that. And said,
yeah.
see if
Just
we can
don't
get him
get that bug and go and try to pitch. Stick to the
No,
pitching.
my left shoulder's not capable of that. I don't even know if I can throw batting practice anymore. I haven't thrown a baseball since, let's see, since I was done. I didn't get a job after 19. So I haven't thrown a baseball since then.
Well, you're not going to be able to throw BP.
I will have to work on that and see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
they
and by the
have
way,
local coaches there that I'm really hoping those
that'll
guys
throw.
can fill. Yeah.
And by the way, something I forgot to mention, folks, Jeff mentioned it. I want to mention it one more time. Jeff said, unless it was a major thing, he didn't ice. Man, I did 3 shows on icing. I'm not going to get into it, but the guy that invented ice finally came out and said, because there's no research that shows that ice actually improves the ability to recuperate faster. It actually slows it down more. I won't get into it. Just go to our shows, folks. Baseball Outside the Box. You'll check it out. It's an amazing story about icing. There's a lot of universities not icing anymore. There's also a lot of big league pitchers not icing. Now, some continue because sometimes it's a mental thing. They just like to do it. But it's interesting. All the things that you've done in the past when you were younger are coming around a little bit because we're starting to realize that sometimes we make mistakes and we need to make adjustments. So I just want to mention that to our folks so they go back and listen to the shows on icing. Hey Jeff, this has been great, man. Appreciate it. Safe travels to Australia. I'll keep in touch with WhatsApp or email, and hope to get you on a international coaching clinic one day.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, man. Enjoy it.
Okay,
have a
thanks,
great
Peter.
trip. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, everybody. Pete Caliendo, Baseball Outside the Box. Check it out, Spotify and YouTube. Subscribe, Baseball Outside the Box, YouTube, Peter Caliendo, Spotify, Baseball Outside the Box. Hey, folks, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless you. We'll see you on the next show. Adios.